They were compact, they were clever, and they changed everything. The late 1950s weren't just about massive tail fins and chrome-laden battleships. While Detroit was obsessed with bigger is better, a quiet revolution was brewing. Small cars, efficient machines, economic champions that dared to challenge the American way. But what if I told you some of these tiny rebels were more revolutionary than the muscle cars that followed? Today, we're diving into the vault, uncovering 15 smaller cars that rewrote the rules. The 1958 AMC Rambler American. They called it economy. AMC called it survival. The 1958 Rambler American wasn't just small, it was smart. While the big three were locked in a horsepower arms race, AMC's George Romney had a different vision. Build smaller, build better, build what people actually need. The American was AMC's answer to a question Detroit refused to ask. What if less was more? At 180 inches long, the American was a full foot shorter than most competitors. But don't mistake compact for cheap. This wasn't some stripped-down penalty box. AMC loaded it with features that bigger cars charged extra for. Standard heaters, foam rubber seats, and build quality that put some premium brands to shame. The 195.6 cubic inch straight six delivered 125 horsepower, enough to keep pace with traffic, while sipping gas like a guilty pleasure. But here's where it gets interesting. The American wasn't just about economy, it was about rebellion. AMC positioned it as the anti-Detroit statement. While Ford and Chevy were selling chrome fantasies, AMC was selling common sense. The marketing was brilliant. The sensible spectaculars. It wasn't flashy, it was practical. It wasn't wasteful, it was wise. The styling was clean, honest, and refreshingly simple. No fake chrome, no pretentious tail fins, just honest transportation that happened to look good doing it. The interior was spacious despite the compact dimensions, proving that intelligent design could beat brute force every time. Sales proved AMC right. The American became their best seller, moving over 100,000 units in its first year. It wasn't just a car, it was a movement, a quiet revolution that said bigger wasn't always better. AMC didn't just build a small car, they built a philosophy, and Detroit was watching. The 1959 Studebaker Lark. Studebaker was dying. Then they built the Lark, and everything changed. The 1959 Lark wasn't just a car. It was a Hail Mary pass thrown by a company with nothing left to lose. And for a brief, shining moment, it worked. Studebaker had been bleeding money for years, trying to compete with the Big Three's increasingly massive offerings. The Lark was their desperate gamble. Go small or go home. The Lark was born from necessity and desperation. Studebaker took their full-size Champion, chopped off the front and rear overhangs, and created something revolutionary. At 175 inches long, it was among the most compact American cars available. But the genius wasn't just in the size, it was in the execution. The Lark looked like it was designed to be compact, not like a full-size car that had been put through a shrinking machine. Under the hood, Studebaker offered choices that mattered. The base 170 cubic inch six delivered adequate performance, but the optional 259 cubic inch V8 transformed the Lark into something genuinely quick. 0 to 60 in under 10 seconds from a compact car in 1959? That was borderline scandalous. The Lark proved that small didn't have to mean slow. The styling was clean, modern, and distinctly American. No European influences, no apologetic design language. This was a compact car that looked proud to be American. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with clever packaging that maximized every cubic inch. Studebaker had always been good at making the most of less. and the Lark was their masterpiece. Sales exploded. The Lark single-handedly saved Studebaker from immediate bankruptcy, moving over 130,000 units in its first year. It proved that Americans would buy small cars if they were done right. The Lark wasn't just transportation, it was vindication. The 1957 Ford Anglia. Ford's British invasion started here. The 1957 Ford Anglia wasn't just small, it was genuinely foreign. While American Ford was building land yachts, their British division was perfecting the art of doing more with less. The Anglia proved that Ford could build world-class small cars. They just chose not to sell them here. The Anglia was everything American cars weren't. At just 144 inches long, it was smaller than some modern motorcycles. But the British knew how to maximize space. The Anglia's interior was cleverly designed, with thin seats that didn't sacrifice comfort and storage solutions that American cars ignored. The rear-slanted rear window wasn't just distinctive, it was functional, improving rear visibility while reducing wind noise. Under the hood sat a 997 cubic centimeter four-cylinder engine that produced just 39 horsepower. By American standards, that was pathetic. By British standards, it was adequate. The Anglia wasn't about straight-line speed. It was about efficiency, reliability, and intelligent design. It could achieve nearly 40 miles per gallon, numbers that wouldn't be matched by American cars for decades. The styling was distinctly British, clean, purposeful, and honest. No chrome excess, no styling gimmicks, just a car that looked like it knew its purpose. The Anglia influenced compact car design worldwide, proving that good design didn't require massive proportions or excessive decoration. But here's the tragedy. Ford America completely ignored the Anglia's lessons. While the British division was perfecting compact car design, American Ford was building ever larger, ever more wasteful vehicles. The Anglia proved that Ford could have dominated the small car market decades earlier. They just chose not to. The Anglia was a glimpse of what could have been, if only Detroit had been paying attention. The 1959 Volkswagen Beetle. The car that shouldn't have worked, but conquered the world. The 1959 Volkswagen Beetle wasn't just different, it was revolutionary. While Detroit was obsessed with annual styling changes and planned obsolescence, Volkswagen did something unthinkable. They built a car and kept it the same. The Beetle wasn't just small, it was philosophical. By 1959, the Beetle had been essentially unchanged since 1938. No tail fins, no chrome excess, no fashion statements. Just honest, efficient transportation that happened to be brilliant. The rear-mounted, air-cooled flat-four engine produced just 36 horsepower, but it was reliable, simple, and practically indestructible. The Beetle proved that engineering excellence mattered more than raw power. The styling was polarizing and perfect. Americans either loved it or hated it, but nobody ignored it. The Beetle looked like nothing else on American roads. It was honest about being different, and that honesty was refreshing. While American cars tried to look like rocket ships, the Beetle was content to look like a Beetle. But the real genius was in the philosophy. Volkswagen didn't just build a small car, they built an alternative to American excess. The Beetle represented different values: simplicity over complexity, efficiency over waste, reliability over fashion. It was a direct challenge to everything Detroit believed. The results spoke for themselves. By 1959, Beetle sales were exploding in America. Young buyers, intellectuals, and anyone tired of Detroit's annual model changes embraced the Beetle's honest simplicity. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement. The Beetle proved that Americans would buy foreign cars if they offered something Detroit couldn't: integrity. The Beetle's influence was immense. It opened American minds to the possibility that small, efficient, and different could be desirable. It paved the way for every import that followed. The 1958 Fiat 500, Italy's answer to transportation for the masses. The 1958 Fiat 500 wasn't just small, it was microscopic. At just 117 inches long, it was smaller than most American car engines. But what the 500 lacked in size, it made up for in personality. This wasn't just a car. It was a statement about what transportation could be when stripped to its absolute essence. The 500 was born from necessity. Post-war Italy needed affordable transportation, and Fiat delivered with ruthless efficiency. The rear-mounted, air-cooled twin-cylinder engine produced just 13 horsepower, but it was enough. The 500 proved that transportation didn't require massive engines or excessive power. It just required intelligence. The styling was pure Italian charm. The 500 looked friendly, approachable, and honest about its limitations. No pretense, no false promises, just a car that looked like it was designed by someone who understood that transportation should be joyful, not stressful. The interior was minimalist but functional, with clever storage solutions and surprising comfort. But here's what made the 500 revolutionary. It redefined what a car could be. While American cars were becoming increasingly complex and expensive, the 500 proved that simplicity could be sophisticated. It wasn't just about going from point A to point B. It was about enjoying the journey without bankrupting yourself. The 500's influence extended far beyond Italy. It proved that small cars could be desirable, that efficiency could be elegant, and that transportation didn't have to be a burden. European manufacturers took notice, and the small car revolution began in earnest. Though rarely seen in America during the 1950s, the 500's philosophy would eventually influence every compact car that followed. It was a masterclass in doing more with less, and it proved that the best solutions are often the simplest ones. The 1957 Renault Dauphine, France's compact rebellion with a twist. The 1957 Renault Dauphine wasn't just small, it was sophisticated. While American manufacturers were convinced that small cars had to be cheap and crude, Renault proved that compact could be classy. The Dauphine was France's answer to the question, what if a small car could be genuinely refined? The Dauphine featured a rear-mounted, water-cooled engine that produced 32 horsepower. Not impressive by American standards, but the French had different priorities. The Dauphine was designed for efficiency, comfort, and style. It could achieve over 40 miles per gallon while providing a surprisingly refined driving experience. The four-door configuration was practical, the styling was elegant, and the interior was genuinely comfortable. What set the Dauphine apart was its sophistication. This wasn't a stripped-down economy car. It was a thoughtfully designed compact that happened to be affordable. The suspension was tuned for comfort, the interior was well appointed, and the overall feel was distinctly upmarket. Renault proved that small didn't have to mean cheap. The styling was distinctly French, elegant, purposeful, and sophisticated. The Dauphine looked like it belonged in a European city square, not an American suburban driveway. But that was part of its charm. It offered an alternative to American excess, a different philosophy about what a car could be. Sales in America were modest, but significant. The Dauphine attracted buyers who wanted something different, something that reflected different values. It wasn't just transportation, it was a lifestyle choice. The Dauphine proved that there was a market for sophisticated small cars, if only manufacturers had the courage to build them. The Dauphine's influence was subtle but important. It helped establish the template for European compact cars that would eventually dominate the American market. The 1959 Morris Mini, the car that rewrote the rules of space and efficiency. The 1959 Morris Mini wasn't just small, it was revolutionary. At just 120 inches long, the Mini proved that brilliant design could overcome any dimensional limitation. This wasn't just a small car, it was a masterclass in packaging efficiency that wouldn't be matched for decades. The Mini's genius lay in its layout. Designer Alec Issigonis placed the engine transversely, driving the front wheels directly. This revolutionary configuration freed up massive amounts of interior space. The Mini could seat 4 adults in comfort despite being smaller than most American cars' trunks. It was a packaging miracle that American manufacturers couldn't match. Under the hood, the 848 cubic centimeter 4-cylinder engine produced just 34 horsepower. But the Mini's lightweight meant it was surprisingly quick. More importantly, it was fun. The Mini proved that driving pleasure didn't require massive engines or excessive power. It just required intelligent design and proper balance. The styling was radical and honest. The Mini looked like nothing else on the road. It was functional, purposeful, and completely unpretentious. No chrome excess, no styling gimmicks, just a car that looked like it was designed by engineers who understood that form should follow function. But the Mini's real revolution was philosophical. It proved that small could be desirable, that efficiency could be exciting, and that intelligent design could overcome any limitation. The Mini didn't just transport people, it transported ideas. It showed that the future of automobiles didn't have to be bigger, it could be better. The Mini's influence was immense. It established the template for every front-wheel drive compact car that followed. It proved that revolutionary thinking could overcome traditional limitations. The Mini wasn't just a car, it was a blueprint for the future. The 1958 Hillman Husky, Britain's utility champion that proved small could be practical. The 1958 Hillman Husky wasn't just compact, it was clever. While most small cars sacrifice utility for size, the Husky proved that intelligent design could deliver both. This wasn't just a car, it was a solution to the problem of needing space in a small package. The Husky was based on the Hillman Minx platform, but with a brilliant twist. It was a small station wagon. The rear cargo area was genuinely useful, with a flat loading floor and practical dimensions. The Husky proved that small cars didn't have to be impractical, they just had to be well designed. Under the hood, the 1,390 cubic centimeter 4-cylinder engine produced 51 horsepower. Not impressive by American standards, but perfectly adequate for the Husky's mission. The engine was reliable, efficient, and simple to service. The Husky proved that utility vehicles didn't need massive engines, they just needed intelligent design. The styling was purposeful and honest. The Husky looked like what it was: a practical vehicle designed for people who needed space more than style. But it wasn't ugly, it was simply functional. The British had mastered the art of making practical cars that didn't apologize for their purpose. What made the Husky special was its versatility. It could handle daily commuting, weekend adventures, and practical hauling duties with equal competence. The rear seats folded flat, creating a surprisingly large cargo area. The Husky proved that small cars could be genuinely useful. The Husky's influence was subtle but important. It established the template for compact utility vehicles that would become increasingly popular in later decades. It proved that practical design could be more important than raw size or power. The Husky was a glimpse of the future, when efficiency and utility would become more important than excess. The 1957 Citroën 2CV, France's people's car that redefined automotive minimalism. The 1957 Citroën 2CV wasn't just small, it was revolutionary. Designed to motorize rural France, the 2CV proved that basic transportation could be brilliant. This wasn't just a car. It was a philosophy about what personal mobility could be when stripped to its absolute essence. The 2CV was born from a simple brief: Build a car that could carry 2 farmers and a bag of potatoes across a plowed field without breaking the eggs. The result was unlike anything else on Earth. The air-cooled twin-cylinder engine produced just 12 horsepower, but it was enough. The 2CV proved that transportation didn't require power. It required intelligence. The styling was polarizing and perfect. The 2CV looked like it had been designed by someone who had never seen a car before. It was honest about its limitations, unpretentious about its purpose, and absolutely functional in its execution. The corrugated roof wasn't just distinctive, it was structural. The simple fenders weren't just cheap, they were replaceable. But the real genius was in the engineering. The 2CV's interconnected suspension could handle any terrain with grace. The simple, robust construction meant it could be serviced anywhere with basic tools. The 2CV proved that sophisticated engineering didn't require complexity. It required understanding. The 2CV's influence was immense. It proved that basic transportation could be desirable, that simplicity could be sophisticated, and that minimal could be maximal. The 2CV didn't just transport people, it transported ideas about what a car could be when designed for real-world use rather than showroom appeal. Though rarely seen in America, the 2CV's philosophy would influence every economy car that followed. It was a masterclass in doing more with less, and it proved that the best solutions are often the simplest ones. The 1958 Goggomobil. Germany's microcar masterpiece that proved small could be smaller. The 1958 Goggomobil wasn't just compact, it was microscopic. At just 117 inches long, the Goggomobil was smaller than most modern motorcycles. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in charm and efficiency. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement about what transportation could be when reduced to its absolute minimum. The Goggomobil was powered by a rear-mounted, air-cooled twin-cylinder engine that produced between 13 and 20 horsepower, depending on the variant. By any measure, this was minimal power, but the Goggomobil's light weight meant it was surprisingly capable. It could achieve over 50 miles per gallon and had a top speed of nearly 60 miles per hour. The Goggomobil proved that efficiency didn't require sacrifice. The styling was distinctive and honest. The Goggomobil looked like a cartoon car come to life, but it was completely functional. The bubble windows weren't just cute, they maximized visibility. The simple construction wasn't just cheap, it was serviceable. The Goggomobil proved that minimal design could be maximum charm. What made the Goggomobil special was its complete lack of pretension. It wasn't trying to be something it wasn't. It was honest about its limitations and proud of its efficiency. In a world of increasingly complex and expensive cars, the Goggomobil represented a different philosophy: simple, efficient, and affordable. The Goggomobil's influence was subtle but important. It proved that there was a market for ultra-compact cars if only manufacturers had the courage to build them. It established the template for city cars that would become increasingly important in later decades. Though never officially sold in America, the Goggomobil represented ideas that would eventually influence every economy car. Efficiency over power, simplicity over complexity, and honesty over pretension. The 1959 BMC Mini. The British Revolution that changed everything. The 1959 BMC Mini wasn't just small, it was transformative. At 120 inches long, the Mini proved that brilliant engineering could overcome any dimensional limitation. This wasn't just a car, it was a masterclass in space efficiency that wouldn't be matched for decades. The Mini's genius lay in its revolutionary layout. Designer Alec Issigonis placed the engine transversely, driving the front wheels directly through a transmission mounted in the oil sump. This configuration freed up massive amounts of interior space. The Mini could seat 4 adults in surprising comfort despite being smaller than most American cars' engines. It was a packaging miracle. Under the hood, the 848 cubic centimeter four-cylinder engine produced just 34 horsepower. But the Mini's 1,300 to 20-pound weight meant it was surprisingly quick. More importantly, it was fun. The Mini proved that driving pleasure didn't require massive engines or excessive power. It just required proper balance and intelligent design. The styling was radical and purposeful. The Mini looked like it had been designed by engineers who understood that every inch mattered. No decorative elements, no wasteful proportions, just a car that looked like it knew its purpose. The Mini proved that functional design could be beautiful. But the Mini's real revolution was philosophical. It proved that small could be desirable, that efficiency could be exciting, and that intelligent design could overcome traditional limitations. The Mini didn't just transport people. It transported ideas about what the future of automobiles could be. The Mini's influence was immense and lasting. It established the template for every front-wheel drive compact car that followed. It proved that revolutionary thinking could overcome conventional wisdom. The Mini wasn't just a car, it was a blueprint for the automotive future. The 1958 Peugeot 403. France's sophisticated compact that proved small could be elegant. The 1958 Peugeot 403 wasn't just smaller than American cars, it was more sophisticated. While Detroit was obsessed with chrome and tail fins, Peugeot was perfecting the art of elegant simplicity. The 403 proved that compact cars could be genuinely refined, that efficiency could be elegant, and that French design could teach the world about automotive sophistication. The 403 featured a 1290 cubic centimeter four-cylinder engine that produced 58 horsepower. By American standards, this was modest, but the French had different priorities. The engine was smooth, reliable, and efficient. The four-speed transmission was precise and durable. The 403 proved that sophisticated engineering didn't require massive displacement. The styling was pure French elegance. Designed by Pininfarina, the 403 looked like it belonged in a European city square. The proportions were perfect, the details were refined, and the overall impression was of a car that understood elegance. Peugeot proved that small cars could be beautiful. The interior was surprisingly spacious and well-appointed. French attention to detail showed in every aspect of the cabin. The seats were comfortable, the materials were quality, and the overall feel was of genuine refinement. The 403 proved that compact cars could feel premium. What made the 403 special was its commitment to sophisticated design. Peugeot didn't just build a small car, they built an elegant car that happened to be compact. The 403 proved that French design could make any car feel sophisticated, regardless of its size. The 403's influence was subtle but important. It established the template for sophisticated compact cars that would become increasingly popular in later decades. It proved that elegance could overcome dimensional limitations, and that good design could make any car desirable. The 403 was a glimpse of the future, when sophistication would become more important than size. The 1959 Škoda Octavia, Czechoslovakia's compact masterpiece that proved communist engineering could compete with the world. The 1959 Škoda Octavia wasn't just small, it was brilliant. Behind the Iron Curtain, Škoda's engineers were quietly perfecting the art of compact car design. The Octavia proved that innovation could flourish anywhere, that political systems couldn't suppress engineering excellence, and that the best ideas often came from unexpected places. The Octavia featured a rear-mounted, air-cooled engine that produced 40 horsepower. The rear engine layout was unusual for the time, but it allowed for exceptional packaging efficiency. The Octavia could seat 4 adults in comfort despite its compact dimensions. Škoda proved that unconventional thinking could overcome conventional limitations. The styling was clean, modern, and surprisingly sophisticated. The Octavia looked like it had been designed by engineers who understood that every detail mattered. No wasted space, no unnecessary elements, just a car that looked like it knew its purpose. Škoda proved that good design wasn't limited by political boundaries. The interior was sparse but functional. Czech attention to detail showed in the logical control placement and efficient use of space. The seats were comfortable, the visibility was excellent, and the overall feel was of quality construction. The Octavia proved that communist engineering could compete with capitalist design. What made the Octavia special was its complete commitment to engineering excellence. Škoda didn't just build a small car, they built a proper car that happened to be compact. The Octavia proved that innovation could flourish anywhere, that good engineering transcended political systems, and that the best ideas often came from unexpected places. The Octavia's influence was profound. It established Škoda as a brand that could compete with Western manufacturers, that valued engineering over politics, and that wasn't afraid to think differently. The Octavia was proof that genius could emerge from anywhere, and that the best cars often came from the most unexpected places. The 1958 Saab 92. Sweden's aircraft-inspired oddity that proved different could be better. The 1958 Saab 92 wasn't just small, it was revolutionary. Born from aircraft manufacturer Saab's entry into automobiles, the 92 brought aerodynamic thinking to an industry obsessed with chrome and tail fins. This wasn't just a car. It was a lesson in what happened when aerospace engineers designed automobiles. The 92's styling was unlike anything else on the road. The aerodynamic body was wind tunnel tested and optimized for efficiency. The distinctive shape wasn't just unusual, it was functional. The 92 achieved remarkable fuel economy and surprising high-speed stability thanks to its aircraft-inspired design. Saab proved that automotive styling could be more than decoration. Under the hood, the 764 cubic centimeter two-stroke twin-cylinder engine produced just 25 horsepower. But the 92's aerodynamic efficiency meant it was surprisingly capable. The two-stroke engine was smoky and noisy by conventional standards, but it was simple, lightweight, and efficient. The 92nd proved that conventional wisdom wasn't always correct. The interior was sparse, but functional. Saab's aircraft background showed in the instrument layout and control placement. Everything was logical, purposeful, and efficient. The 92 felt more like an aircraft cockpit than a traditional car interior, and that was exactly the point. What made the 92nd special was its complete commitment to different thinking. Saab didn't just build a small car, they built a philosophy. The 92nd proved that automotive design could learn from other industries, that efficiency could be elegant, and that different could be desirable. The 92's influence was subtle but important. It established Saab as a brand that thought differently, that valued engineering over styling, and that wasn't afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. The 92 was a glimpse of what automotive design could be when freed from traditional constraints. The 1959 Opel Kadett. Germany's compact comeback that proved engineering excellence could overcome any limitation. The 1959 Opel Kadett wasn't just small, it was sophisticated. After years of focusing on larger cars, Opel returned to the compact segment with a vengeance. The Kadett proved that German engineering could make small cars feel substantial. Efficient cars feel refined, and economy cars feel premium. The Kadett featured a 993 cubic centimeter four-cylinder engine that produced 40 horsepower. Not impressive by American standards, but the German approach to engineering made the difference. The engine was smooth, reliable, and efficient. The four-speed transmission was precise and durable. The Kadett proved that quality engineering mattered more than raw specifications. The styling was clean, modern, and distinctly German. The Kadett looked substantial despite its compact dimensions. The proportions were honest, the details were well executed, and the overall impression was of a car that knew its purpose. Opel proved that small cars didn't have to look cheap or apologetic. The interior was surprisingly spacious and well-appointed. German attention to detail showed in every aspect of the cabin. The seats were comfortable, the controls were logically placed, and the overall feel was of quality construction. The Kadett proved that compact cars could feel premium. What made the Kadett special was its commitment to engineering excellence. Opel didn't just build a small car, they built a proper car that happened to be small. The Kadett proved that German engineering could make any car feel substantial, regardless of its size. The Kadett's influence was significant. It established the template for German compact cars that would eventually dominate the premium economy segment. It proved that engineering excellence could overcome dimensional limitations, and that quality construction could make any car desirable. These weren't just small cars. They were revolutionaries. While Detroit was building bigger, these compact pioneers were building better. They proved that innovation didn't require massive proportions, that efficiency could be elegant, and that sometimes the best solutions came in the smallest packages. Each one challenged conventions, redefined possibilities, and showed that the future of automobiles wasn't about size, it was about intelligence. The compact revolution had begun, and the world would never be the same.